a man who's a star of NCIS. Only Lassie and Gunsmoke have been on CBS for more seasons than NCIS, which is in its 15th season. Good to see you, Mark Harmon.
Same, Rich.
Lassie and Gunsmoke.
Yeah, there's some company.
That's a pretty respectable neighborhood when it comes down to that. I mean, what do you think of when you hear about the fact that you've been on the same TV show for 15 years? And what was the number that we just mentioned, number of episodes that we just talked about?
354.
54. Those are unheard of numbers.
Yeah, no, it's rare air, certainly, and it doesn't feel like as long as it's been, but it's still fun. It's still new things there. I like the people I get to work with every day.
Right.
I like being there.
What's the strangest foreign language you've seen your show in? NCIS.
You know, probably Russian.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you never like the guy who's voicing it. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, but this show actually caught on internationally quicker than it did here. So
is that right?
Yeah. And when you know, in season 5 or 6, when you went to do publicity and got out of the country, then all of a sudden you realize it was a little more difficult to walk down the street than it was here.
So did you always want to get into acting? I mean, when you were, let's
No.
say, when you were suiting up for UCLA, putting on the cleats, playing quarterback in the Rose Bowl?
No. I wanted to take pride in doing something and working hard at it every day. That's kind of how I grew up, watching my dad, and I had a bunch of different starts. You know, I did a lot of different jobs. And
Like what?
I sold shoes. I was in law school for a little bit.
When was that? When were you selling shoes while you were playing quarterback for UCLA?
No. After I worked for Adidas for about 8 months, and before that I was doing merchandising and radio here in Los Angeles, and then I was studying acting all the time during the night time. But for a few years after college, other than being a carpenter, I was just trying to do whatever I could do to make a few bucks.
Huh. So did you never have any pro prospects? Did the NFL ever come knocking on your door?
I had a chance to go to camp.
Which camp?
I had calls from New England. I had the WFL, the CFL. They were all in full swing at the time, and I had chances to go to camp there too. But I just never. It was never even something I thought about. It was just it was time to move on to something else, and this ended up being it.
Why? I mean, did you not want to play football professionally?
I think when you do something, as long as you do something like that,
right.
And it's always hard to say goodbye to it. But I never had aspirations for that. I played with a lot of guys who did. 22 guys off the team I played on went on to some sort of a pro career. Some of them were shorter than others.
Who was the best, I guess, that you played with at UCLA?
Jimmy Allen, maybe. Kermit Johnson, James McAllister. Those guys all had Randy Cross. Those guys all had bigger pro careers than some others.
Who was your coach at the time?
At the time, it was Pepper Rogers. My position coach was Homer Smith.
And this was just pre-Vermeil there at UCLA?
It was.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 year before.
So it's interesting, Mark Harmon here on the Rich Eisen Show, because the conversation about the current UCLA quarterback going to the next level, Josh Rosen, have you ever met him?
Never.
Okay. But the conversation about him is that he has too many interests other than football. In the same way that you obviously were not somebody that was all about football, which is fascinating since your dad had a terrific football life. So what do you think when you hear that Josh Rosen might not be a quality professional or a top pick because he might have other interests?
I think that's kind of up to Josh Rosen, and I think people judge and people have opinions, and they're right, I guess. But it's a lot different for the person taking the snap. From where he stands and for what is ahead for him and what his goals are and what he's wanted to do for maybe all his life. I think he's in a pretty good position, and I look forward to seeing what next year is for him and how he'll accomplish that dream. So many have that dream, and so few have an opportunity, and he'll certainly get that opportunity. So I just hope it's in a place and with a coaching staff where he doesn't get hit as much as he's been hit the last couple of years.
Yes, I know, and the beating that he has taken sometimes to me proves that he's a guy who wants it. Not just the fact that he has it because I guess he's doing it as a hobby. It's kind of crazy, Mark Harmon here on the show, because to me, again, just because he has other interests, just because he asks why instead of says okay, to me means he wants to be collaborative. Did you ever ask why something is
Sure, all the time.
of your coaches?
We were running what was a relatively new offense, and so asking questions was part of how you learned it. And like I said, my position coach was Homer Smith, and he was a guy that early on, that's the only way you learned, is to ask questions, and the only way you learned is to make mistakes. Sometimes you learn so much more from mistakes than you do from something that's good. But I just think that's about growth. I don't find a harm in that, and I think it's very easy to be critical and have an opinion, which is your right. But believe me, it just looks a lot different from where he's standing.
Right.
And you watch a game on a Saturday from your living room, and you see a quarterback throw a ball and hit a free safety right in the chest with the ball, and goes, come on, I could do better than that. I said, well, I guarantee you, it looks much different from where he's standing from where you are.
Right.
And I think that has to do with people who have played and people who haven't, and there's a big difference.
What's the hardest you've ever been hit?
What's that?
What's the hardest you've ever been hit?
Oh, I don't know about hardest. I just know that the step up from Pop Warner to high school, from high school to college was extreme, and the speed was an extreme difference, and that's what I think most about. I don't know that actually the impact was what I thought about, but we ran the wishbone, so I got hit a lot. That was part of the offense. So I think I probably got hit more than Josh did, but he got hit plenty, and hopefully in the next level he won't be.
Does that mean you've always done your own stunts too?
No, it does not. There's a thing called stuntman, and they're really good at what they do. And so I'm really eager to step aside if that's their job.
You took your hits in Westwood.
Well, not even that.
Or
It's
Pasadena.
I look at it like it's taking a job away from somebody else. So I don't try to take people's job.
Look at you. You're a team player. There is no I in Mark Harmon. That's what he's basically saying. There is an I in NCIS. We'll talk in 60 seconds when we come back a little bit about tonight's game.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you have a rooting interest in tonight's game in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
Like maybe I do. We're back at 60 seconds with Mark Harmon, and we'll also talk about this piece of lumber that I have right here, a bat that's got the name Billy Wyatt on it. We're back here on the Rich Eisen Show in 60 seconds. Mark Harmon back here on the Rich Eisen Show again, and NCIS every single Tuesday, including tomorrow night at 8 Eastern Time. We've seen all the promos for NCIS during the NCAA tournament. When they're shooting free throws, they say, hey, tune in to NCIS on Tuesday night. Is it safe to assume in tonight's game, again, you're a Michigan man. Would you consider yourself a Michigan man outside of a UCLA man?
I'm the son of a Michigan man.
Okay.
So I don't know.
So you're...
Kind of.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up with the maize and blue, and I know you have a background there.
I do. I went to school there. So do you have a rooting interest in tonight's game?
Sure, I'd love to see Michigan win, but I think being there is a great honor, and that doesn't.
Okay.
That's not too great for the team that comes in second place.
Sure. Is that your way of saying
I did
Villanova,
some of that in my life?
Villanova fans watch NCIS too? That's another way of saying it?
No, I'm not even talking like that. I just I kind of like the underdog a little bit.
And so you are also the voice, the narrator of the new season of All or Nothing on the Michigan Wolverines. Friday, April 6th is when it starts streaming exclusively on Amazon Prime Video. What's your memory of the Big House? Any good memories from the Big House?
I was there when they honored my dad, and my wife is from Michigan, so the first time she had ever been to the Big House was that night, and we were down the field. They were playing Notre Dame. Quite an event, spectacular to be on the field for that night. Mm-hmm. So I had been there before, but that night was really special. And probably because it was about my dad more than it was about me.
Yeah, first Heisman Trophy winner in the history of Michigan.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet Bo Schembechler?
I did. He recruited me.
Hold on a second. Bo Schembechler recruits the son of Tom Harmon, and the son of Tom Harmon goes to UCLA.
Right.
I mean, walk me through that, Mark.
I was looking for an opportunity to play, you know, and an opportunity to study what I wanted to study, and I think for me the fit was probably better at UCLA. My dad stayed totally out of it.
He did.
Yeah, totally.
When you told him I don't want to go to Michigan,
No, I didn't say that. I just said I just said I think I almost went to Oklahoma and then ended up going to UCLA, and I think for me, for a lot of different reasons, and certainly some of those reasons were 20 years down the line. I knew nothing about that at the time, but for me, it was the right place.
So Switzer almost got you? Was it Barry Switzer?
Well, it was Chuck Fairbanks, and Switzer was the offensive coordinator. Yeah.
Okay. So why'd you almost go to Oklahoma instead? What was that about?
They, you know, Jack Mildren was running the wishbone, and like every other kid, I grew up watching him, and I knew I was going to be running a triple option offense if I was going to be playing quarterback. So to be recruited by them at that time, and certainly meet Jack and have him be your host for a couple of days in Norman, that was pretty daunting.
I would say. And
Yeah.
Switzer, was he crazy as like a fox at the time too, or what?
Certainly crazy.
Okay.
I like him,
that.
though. I do like him.
Okay. And then it's interesting because Aikman had a year in Oklahoma before he went to UCLA.
Yep.
Do you have a relationship with Troy?
I've met him. It's funny because we all did a photo once. A bunch of UCLA quarterbacks, like over a 20-year span, all came for a photograph opportunity. And there were a bunch of, you know, basically 6'1" guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Troy, who looks like a defensive end. I mean, he's big, tall, strong. So obviously drop back pro style versus the option guys that I was part of.
So Mark Harmon here on the show once again, which I'm always appreciative of you coming back to chat about
Appreciate the
NCIS.
invite.
No, please, anytime. Last time you were here, you said, you know what? There's a couple of Billy Wyatt baseball bats that exist. I've got one, and I want to send it to you.
Well, you told me your wife liked the movie. That's where it started.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, look, to me, most people love Stealing Home, if not everybody. It's a universally loved film, and a lot of women really fell in love, not just with the movie, but with you. And I think my wife might have been one of those.
Well, Rich,
people.
the last thing I do is walk around trying to give away Billy Wyatt baseball bats.
Okay, I know, which is very appreciative. And I have it right here. Here it is. I'd like to hand it to you. There
to do
it
what?
is. Just to hold it and say,
Okay.
you know, basically, and just to put a Billy Wyatt baseball bat back in your hands. What are your memories of
I remember that there are only 12 of these made.
Okay.
And like I said, I had a couple, and now I have one.
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored that you gave one away.
This is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'd like to sign it. But
Sure.
Why do you think the movie resonated and still does?
You know, I only know from being an actor and knowing the two guys, Will Aldis and Steve Campman, who wrote, produced, and also co-directed that movie. And I just know that it was a script that hit me like it hit everybody who was in that movie, and we all tested for it, including Jody. I mean, everybody did. And I just think it was one of those movies you do because you love the material. I mean, it was a tough shoot. We all worked hard. We all carried lights and did everything else we had to do to make it happen.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Jodie Foster was carrying lights?
Yeah, she was part of it. It was all for one, really a team effort. And it's one of those movies that, you know, good, bad, people like it, don't like it, whatever. I just am proud to be part of that experience. And
Universally loved.
that's nice to know.
It really is. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of Stephen Bochco to you.
And you.
Well, I mean, he meant a lot to me personally. He's been on the show a couple of times.
And you wrote a book.
Well, he wrote a memoir that I was he was kind enough to accept my offer to interview him for it.
Yeah, I know, but that's Stephen Bochco asking you to do that. That's
was really
pretty
cool.
special.
It was really great.
Yeah.
It was really great. I'd love to give you the floor. And like, did you ever come across him? Or work with him?
I've met Stephen many times and read for him many times. Didn't get one part from him, but he is also, you know, in a weird way, responsible for how I ended up doing St. Elsewhere, because I was constantly up for a show he was doing called Bay City Blues, baseball story, and And I had been back to meet him time and time again, 5, 6 times maybe. And I was walking down the hallway after the last meeting, and the casting director was the same for St. Elsewhere and at the time Hill Street Blues. And he said, they're trying to cast this plastic surgeon on this hospital show, St. Elsewhere, and would you like to read for that as long as you're here? And I went in, I read for Bruce Paltrow, Cold, and in the reading, it's never happened before or since. He said, hey, that was good. I like it. If you want to do it, you got it. So I called my agent and I said, we're going to get an offer to do this. And they said, Bay City Blues, that's great. And I said, no, this other show called St. Elsewhere, because it's down the hallway. And I ended up in that meeting as well. And so that's the one we're going to get a go on. But I would run into Stephen. We were in the same, basically the same building, same sound stages, roughly, at MTM there. Always a nice guy, always an innovative guy. And in so many ways responsible for so many careers, not only actors, but writers and producers and a whole change of the system and the way things were going at the time.
And St. Elsewhere was, would you say that just obviously your first big break of your career, correct?
Yes, first major ensemble piece that I ever did, and all of a sudden you've got better words to say, and you're working with better actors or different actors, and the opportunity changes, and I was fortunate to have that job.
Well, I really appreciate you coming by here again. You're always welcome here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for asking me.
Anytime. And NCIS, check it out every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern Time, 15th season with Mark Harmon. Thanks for coming on, sir.
Sure, Rich. Anytime.
You got it. You bet.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.